is The Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, professional wrestling podcast. It's a live podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entryway into the minds and souls, the hearts and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am a South by Southwesterner. I'm a commentator. I'm a gambler. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and I am sitting here live in my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before I go any further, this is fan support and listener support podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend, tweet it out, Facebook it out. Best way that you can support, though, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, t-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads, Wrestling Road Diaries 1 through 3. Also, a soft launch to a new Colt merch. I'll talk about that in just a second. Make sure you go to ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. I do want to talk about the new fun stuff up at my merchandise website, but I do want to talk about my guest this week. My guest is Dean Allmark, and this is a wrestler you should know. And the meanest thing about saying something like that is having a guy like Dean on and being like, Dean, there's going to be a chance that maybe some guys don't know who you are, but that's like fucking, guy's been doing it for so long. And I mean, he's self-aware of where he is in the world of wrestling because of the schedule that he's been doing or the types of shows that he's been doing for so long. But still, like, you don't want to say that. But I'm saying it because I want people to know him. I think everyone should know Dean. I think everyone should know his story. A little context to what will be happening in this conversation. So, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about this, but I just want you to know going into this, Dean is a guy who has basically wrestled on the Butlins camps for so long. The Butlins camps are the camps that are brought up on this podcast a lot by different wrestlers throughout the whole time that I've been doing this show. They are ran by a man named Brian Dixon, who's basically ran British professional wrestling for a long time. And just this year, after years of running the Butlins camps, they have left his possession. He is no longer running those camps. So if you're wondering what we're getting into while we're conversing, Dean has basically been wrestling in front of children and vacationers for years, every single day. I had a conversation with Marty Scurll this weekend as I was in Las Vegas with Ring of Honor, and we were kind of talking about the old guard in the British wrestling scene. And we were talking specifically, I was talking about guys like Steve Gray and Mal Sanders, where I was saying that they were superstars. And he was saying that, nobody knew who they are. And I'm like, well, nobody knows who anybody is just in general. But within their genre, they are superstars. But for all of those guys, like all of them, and maybe there's a handful, and maybe this is kind of like the independent scene, why, I don't know, I was always so drawn to that scene, is that they all had different jobs. And on the World of Sport television in the 70s and 80s, they would always say these guys' other jobs. Steve Gray would work with children at school, and this man was a handyman, and this man would work at a factory, and then he would come here and he would wrestle. And they were on television in front of 4 million people, and everyone accepted the idea that these people were their stars, their heroes, but also they worked a job like everybody else. And because in the British wrestling scene for so long, even the stars, you never became a millionaire. And that's kind of always the difference between the wrestling scene in England and the wrestling scene maybe in America or Japan, but specifically, let's say America, is you get to this point, a promoter sees you, they pay you a lot of money, you make them a lot of money, and then you just become rich. And if you don't fuck it up, you're the rich for the rest of your life. Whereas these wrestlers, that was just a job. That was a job for them. They did a lot of it. They traveled a lot. But in England, you don't travel too much. I mean, you kind of stay within the island, I guess, 7 hours, 8 hours, maybe the max of where you're really going to go. But every night, I remember Johnny Kidd saying that he would go to his match. He'd be home in 45 minutes. He'd just take the train back and forth every single night. So these wrestlers just did the job. They did it for 40 years. And then when they retired, they went and they had to do something else. And I think that's the spirit of what Dean is doing as a wrestler. He's still living that life of this is the job, this is what he's doing. And I know it's weird when I bring up to him. I feel weird about it, like, hey, don't you want to go to WWE or whatever it is. But he was brought in on this tradition of guys before him. The guys before him weren't millionaires. Robbie Brookside, Frankie Sloan, Skull Murphy, just guys doing the job. You can imagine the different conversations between a Drew McDonald saying how it's going to be and Kevin Nash being like, get him for all the money that you can. buy 3 houses, invest in real estate. Where these guys just, back in the day, they were just trying to invest in some new boots if they possibly can. So Dean's a very special podcast. Enjoy this conversation. Learn about him. Learn about a different lifestyle. Very much like the James Mason episode that hopefully you didn't sleep on. Okay, I did a soft launch of a new Colt merch. I put up a new button pack. I'm going to have some micro brawlers pretty soon up there. And I have all the shirts, and they're now available in onesies and babies and women's, sweatshirts, doing the rounds. Whatever you want, I got it for you. Also, I have so many small shirts that I'm doing a random $1 shirt. So you can buy a grab bag shirt for $1. Also, on Digital Colt, 7 Levels of Hate. So many people have been asking about this. Adam Pearce signed with the WWE, a producer in the WWE, so he no longer was dealing with 7 Levels of Hate. Well, I have taken it from him, put it on the digital site. It's available at digitalcolt.com. It's a documentary about how, how the NWA politics still played in 2013, 14, whatever it was, which was very silly. I remember it well, and kind of saddened about it, I'll be honest. So purchase those if you got the money. If not, maybe go in with a friend or 4. Other than that, a lot of people enjoyed my commentary for Ring of Honor. I was in Las Vegas for 2 nights. I did gamble, put $100 on the table. Jay Lethal, big peer pressure. Lethal and Tremperetta, they wanted me to gamble. Threw in the Hondo, played a couple hours, came out with a Hondo. So even Steven for me. We wrestled at this casino called Sam's Town, Hotel and Casino, which has everything in it. It was pretty interesting, but it was off the strip and it was filled with old people. But I don't know, in a perfect world, I like it. I like the idea of you wrestle there, you stay there, you eat there, you gamble there, you do everything. I think I can't wait to be a retiree and live in Leisure World like my grandparents used to. That'd be the best. You never have to leave. You just drive around in a golf cart. That's essentially what was happening for the Ring of Honor wrestlers at Sam's Town in Las Vegas. I did enjoy commentating. Maybe there's a future for me. There was supposed to be 10 years ago in the WWE, but maybe that's part of my fun story, part of my fun path. Is that on a whim, they needed a commentator. The booker knew that I knew a lot about 15 years of Ring of Honor. He put me in it, and maybe it becomes a thing. Or maybe not. I'm wrestling at your local VFW starting next week. Before I get into the song of the week, and you're listening to this before South by Southwest, I will be at South by Southwest, roaming around. I'm doing a live podcast at 3:30. You're supposed to be a pass holder, but I'm telling people to sneak in. Fuck it. I don't care. Try to sneak in. We have some really good guests, really funny comedians, and famous pro wrestlers. Good hodgepodge. You're going to dig it. It'll be on the feed in a couple weeks anyways. All right, song of the week is brought to you by Audible. Boy, do I hate to read. And if you've been listening to this podcast even for a little bit, you know that I hate it. But you know what I do love? I love audio. And Audible is audiobooks of books that you can't be bothered to read. Download the app. It's free and works on iPhones, iPads, Androids, and Windows Phone. Audible has a great listen guarantee, too. If you don't like the book that you chose, no biggie. Exchange it for any other books. No questions asked. You can listen anywhere. You committing to a new workout regimen? Well, increase your reps while you free your mind. I do have the Audible app on my phone, and on top of books, they also have premium podcasts that I've really been getting into. There's one called Presidents Are People Too, and that's where they break down U.S. presidents as real people, kind of like The Art of Wrestling for presidents, but with no conversations. I also listen to Henry Phillips' album and Lachlan Patterson's album, 2 amazing comedians, underrated comedians, and their album is on there, highly recommended. Listen, you can't make more time, but you can make the most of it. Turn your workout, your commute, your walk, whatever, turn it into something more with a free trial at Audible. Go to audible.com/Colt and start now. All right, the song of the week is by Cheap Pop out of Seattle, Washington, which I will be wrestling in June. Keep an eye out for that. Support them and their great album In Gorilla by going to cheappop.bandcamp.com or say hi to them on Twitter at cheappopIsABand. Dean and I, we talk about our friend the American Dragon, who had a fond love for the Butlins scene. And if he doesn't re-sign his contract, I can see him just living in the Butlins chalets and wrestling from Butlins to Butlins. So here's a great song, Daniel Bryan Danielson. Enjoy it, and we'll be back with Dean Allmark.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, this podcast is also sponsored by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, it's a search engine for finding and posting jobs. Are you a place or a business or a thing Maybe you're a wrestling company. Do you need to hire somebody? Posting your job in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. You need to post your job on all of the job sites, and now you can with ZipRecruiter.com. ZipRecruiter already has 9 million resumes you can search through in their database. With one click, send your job to 200 plus job sites, including social media like Twitter and Facebook. Jobs in any city, any industry, nationwide. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen those candidates, rate them, and hire the right person. It's been used by over 1 million businesses. It's also been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, CBS, New York Times, and so many great outlets. I keep on saying, we got to get rid of Scrump. We got to get rid of Frank. There's a bunch of new people there. If Pro Wrestling Tees didn't use ZipRecruiter, I'd be very upset. Right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/first. It's ZipRecruiter.com/first. One more time, ZipRecruiter.com/first. Yeah, I just wrestled, so
did I.
I think, well, you went and grabbed the sweatshirt. I think we're in the coldest room in Britain right now. Not the coldest room.
I think it is.
It's super cold. But I think I could come post match. This should be the after. Is there like, you know, there's like a cold shower after
you work out,
or like, you know, in the Olympics when you go swimming and then they jump right in that cold pool.
Yeah,
I think there should be that for the wrestling. This room.
In this room,
yeah,
it would be a good place.
It's so cold, but it would feel so good after you're done wrestling. I'm sweating. How'd your match go today?
Fun.
Yeah,
just fun. It's the first time I've wrestled Joey and Joey Hayes. That is.
Yeah, give him a plug. Give him a plug.
Yeah, give him a plug. He'll love that.
He's been around forever too.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
this is the first time you've linked
up. That's the first time we've ever wrestled one-on-one.
Well, that's one of the things with you is that you've been wrestling forever, but there probably is a time where you haven't wrestled a lot of these guys in the circuit because you were like in your own circuit for a while, right?
Yeah, like for straight 10 years, I was pretty much with All Star.
Yeah,
and nobody else. And then when I started doing these type of shows, just nobody knew who I was. It's weird because I'd done thousands of matches and these guys didn't. Yeah, thousands of matches and these guys didn't know. So
that's the best. Like literally, that's not even an exaggeration. Thousands of matches.
Yeah,
it's so weird. I was thinking about the other day of like the idea. Because who was I thinking about? Me and my friend Marty were talking about this of like, it hasn't happened in wrestling necessarily. And I think the example we used was maybe like Mark Maron and comedy. But I'm trying to think of like, you know, someone who's just been in it a long time and they finally get their break in their like later years.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Fighter and Kid podcast.
Okay.
And Brian Callen on that is the one guy that they always say that he's like, just breaking out now.
Yeah.
He's like 50.
Right, but I feel he's been around for...
But me as like a British guy,
yeah,
I probably haven't seen half the stuff that you do. And I don't really watch that much comedy, to be honest.
Yeah.
So him coming on the podcast and that podcast, it's apparently it's really big.
I think it's very popular, yeah.
So just now at the age of 50.
He's right. Well, that's what Mark Maron was. He was like, he was 50 and he started... I mean, he was doing like... You know, he could barely sell out 100-seat theaters or 100-seat rooms.
Yeah.
And then now he's doing 3,000-seat theaters or
That's
whatever
crazy.
it is. It's at 50 years old.
And all their shows are sold out.
Yeah, the Fighter and the Kid. They tour the podcast around.
Yeah.
And so that's the same idea of like, this is a small island,
the
United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And you're around for, like, who's the new guy?
Yeah.
Wonder who the rookie is.
Yeah.
And it's a guy who's wrestled 3,000 matches.
Yeah,
9 matches in 1 week.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Which is no exaggeration.
Yeah.
Like in the summer, I do 10 shows a week on the summer run. And on a Sunday, that's 3 shows on a Sunday.
I can't wait to get into all of that. I think it's going to be so fun. Did some of the wrestlers when you first started coming around, like the other matches besides, like, what were there reactions to you or because I'd have to say that a lot of the better ones or some of the guys have been doing the camps with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's not many people on these shows that I haven't come across at All Star, to be honest.
So, all right. So let's give some context to everyone. So you do All Star Wrestling. So on this podcast, which is a known thing, I'd like to think is the thing where I talk about doing the camps.
Yeah.
Which is the Butlins camps. Not anymore, right?
Not anymore, unfortunately.
But you just wrestled forever doing a nonstop tour that never ended.
Continuous loop.
Yeah.
Like when I first started on the camps in 2001, from the month of April till November, you do 6 shows a week at least. And then if there was like town shows that you could make it to at night time, you do like them as well, like double shots and triple shots. Could you do 2 shows on a Wednesday anyway? Could you do like a caravan park as well as Bognor? And then if there's a show local, you just go to that one too. Because the way Brian used to work it is, he used to
so this is Brian Dixon. Who, and we'll give some context too, who's been running these for 40 years, right?
I think it's close to 50 now.
50 now.
Yeah.
And this is everybody. This is what Regal talks about. Robbie Brookside, the Dragon, right?
Dragon, yeah.
I mean, this is what everyone talks about when they go to England, is doing these camps and wrestling for Brian Dixon.
Yeah.
Who's your father-in-law.
He is now.
Yeah, now.
Yes, yeah. He wasn't at the beginning.
Right.
But
and so, okay, so sorry.
That was a tricky situation. But so 2001, it was like April till November, guaranteed 6 jobs a week. You'd have Mondays and Fridays off. And he used to have a team of Americans like Jake the Snake and people like this. They'd do the town shows, and then us English guys, the cheap labour, were on the camps. So just 2 singles matches on the camps. Yeah, and that's
so the camps was just two
singles matches now. Yeah, so that was 2 singles matches. It was like singles match, interval, and then singles match.
And he would try to stretch it for an hour.
Yeah, an hour. Yeah.
So you were wrestling a half hour, or probably a 20-minute
match, 20-minute interval, another 20-minute match.
All right.
Yeah.
And okay, you're doing that since 2001.
2001, yeah.
Till to present day. But you're doing more shows around the country on top of also doing the camps. But the camps have kind of slowed down a little bit. Is that right?
So the camps are like seasonal. So you do like in the summertime, it's really busy. Like last summer, I did almost 100 matches in 10 weeks. Which is like just the regular camps.
It's nothing to you.
Yeah, and then in half terms, it's like pretty much every day. But obviously with Brian losing Butlins now, it's just town shows. So you do them every day instead.
Every day he's running a town show. Because we come from a culture, the independent guys or whatever, come from a culture of you wrestle Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
And... Okay, like you don't know. But right, like that, you wrestle Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Sometimes Sunday.
Yeah.
And... Brian and you've always done shows like he's just ran weekday shows.
Yeah, and it was weird. Like April till November at the Butlins camps, most of the time it wasn't a holiday, so it's basically people like taking the kids out of school and stuff, and they were just keeping the place open. So if it wasn't a holiday, you'd be wrestling in front of like 30 people
at the Butlins camps.
At the Butlins camps,
but those Butlins camps are notorious because I've wrestled there. There's thousands of people.
Oh yeah. Oh my God! In the summer, like there are literally thousands.
What's the most you think you've wrestled in front of those guys?
5,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to give a mental picture, it's like a giant. I wouldn't say tent because it's a building, right?
It's a building in the shape of a tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's huge. And there's like, you can go over here and go to a store, you can go over there, and there's a magician doing something, right? And there's some kind of entertainment. And then the middle of it is wrestling in a stage.
Yes. Yeah, the wrestling on the stage. Like at Bognor, you usually do some Reds there, which is like a separate building. But Skegness and Minehead, it's in the middle of the skyline. And
so they just hey, this is what's happening. It's kind of like a cruise, but on land.
We're just the entertainment put on. They're not wrestling fans or anything like that. But
you do like, do you guys have cruises, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't know.
They go around the world, don't they?
Yeah. But and then there's just like entertainment, and people are just like...
Yeah, they're there, so...
Yeah, you do what you do.
This is the entertainment.
Oh, fun. All right, so tell me a little bit about you. I think I know much about you, but... I think you're a Stoke-on-Trent guy, is that?
Yes.
Yay.
Yes, born and raised in Stoke-on-Trent. But actually, I've lived on the Wirral, which is like Liverpool, basically Merseyside, for over half my life now.
Mm-hmm. On the Wirral, I never heard that one.
Wirral. Yeah, you never heard that one?
Say that again.
That's Wirral.
Spell that.
Wirral.
No? What does that mean?
So that's basically like... You've been to Birkenhead.
Yeah.
Birkenhead is in the Wirral. It's like the district.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. Yeah. So Stoke-on-Trent, when did you move to the Wirral?
Yes.
When you were what?
18 maybe.
Okay. And you started wrestling?
No. So
in Stoke-on-Trent, I'd assume.
Yeah. I've started wrestling in Stoke-on-Trent. Obviously, growing up, always loved wrestling from like the age of 6. My granddad showed me my first ever wrestling match. I remember it to this day. It was Saba Simba against Hakeem.
Oh, God. We come on this podcast, and I'm hoping it's like Rocco versus Nagasaki.
He showed me that when I was like 6 years old, and my brain just exploded. I was just like, oh, my God, what is this?
And the great thing is, so imagine in that during that match when that was happening, there was a couple of 30-year-olds who were like smart wrestling fans who were like, this sucks. Saba Simba versus Akeem, this is the worst. Like Meltzer's like, this is gross. And then the flip side is there's a 6-year-old kid who's mesmerized by it and makes him become a pro wrestler.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously from then go and see the local shows.
Did you go to local shows?
Yeah. So I met a guy called Robbie Dynamite when I was 8. I moved 10 because I was living somewhere.
Now Robbie's a wrestler.
He's a wrestler, but I lived 10 doors away from him. And from a very early age, he had it in his head that he was just going to be a pro wrestler.
Okay.
Nothing was going to stop him. And
his last name was Dynamite. And he's like, listen, my name's Robbie Dynamite. There's no reason for me to be anything but a wrestler.
Yeah. And he was just a wrestler and he just wanted to be a wrestler and he studied tapes. He was basically the driving force behind my career, to be honest. Because if I wouldn't have met him, I probably wouldn't have become a wrestler.
Okay, but he didn't introduce you to it.
No, I was already into it. But then obviously I met him in primary school and found out he liked wrestling. We become friends, hanging out together, watching
wresting. I didn't know you guys had known each other for that long.
Yeah.
Because when we did a little touring, he was on a lot of those shows.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and I didn't even put that together.
Yeah. So we stayed friends through high school. I kind of lost interest in wrestling a little bit because football's so massive. Started playing football, and then at the age of 15, I left school because my birthday is at the end of August. So I was like the youngest in my year.
You quit school or you left school?
That was
different over here.
School finished.
Okay.
School
15,
finished at
so
15.
Weird
yeah.
For us Americans, because we ended 18.
Yeah.
But you guys go to a weird half college, half second high school?
It's called sixth form.
Okay.
Yeah. And apparently now you have to stay till 18.
Oh, they've changed it?
Yeah, they've changed it now. But as soon as I got out of high school, I was like, tried a couple of jobs here and there, did have a job. But Robbie was like, I'm going to be a wrestler. Let's go to the gym. So there was a building, like 3-story.
Hold on. I also love the idea of like, in my head, like, American movies, you're 18, you're like trying to get a job, you're working like odd jobs.
Yeah.
But you're like a 15-year-old kid, like living the land.
I worked in a factory for a year and a half.
At 15?
Yeah.
That's illegal.
And there was literally 40 guys, and my job was to get all the equipment, because it was a furniture factory. So I had to get the framework, I had to get all the cards, the foam, and get everything for these guys. And they were only getting paid per whatever they made. So they were really like angry if I wasn't there straight away.
God.
So it was...
Did you sit there and think like, this is the rest of my life?
No.
That's the worst job ever to do at 15.
It was kind of... My mom and dad were just like, well, you've left school now, you need a job. And I wasn't great at school, didn't get great qualifications, and it was basically one that my auntie got me, a job there. And
but what was your thought? Like, hey, I'll get out of here. Okay, let's say Robbie didn't take you to the wrestling school.
Yeah.
What was...
Just keep doing whatever. Yeah.
Well, whatever means the furniture place. Yeah. Forever.
And I sticked around until that place shut down. I got released because they shut down.
Yeah.
Or else I probably would have kept going.
Oh, man.
But me quit. That place closing down was the thing that got me on the camps, basically, because the week after, Robbie was already wrestling for Brian Dixon at this point. And
so you were training when he took you to that school. Gotcha.
So training for a year and a half at that school while being at this furniture place. And we stayed at that place. Like where we trained to wrestle was like a 3-story building, and Dynamite obviously was already hitting weights from the age of 12. So I joined the gym. The gym was on the 3rd floor, and there was a Muay Thai gym on the 2nd floor, and a local wrestling company just opened a wrestling school in that Muay Thai gym, and it was basically blue mats in a room that was 12 foot by 6 foot.
Oh, weird.
Not double glazing window. It was like single glazed window, so it's absolutely freezing. You'd be training, you could see your breath.
And no wrestling ring.
No wrestling ring.
Charging you money for this?
Yes. And you do it 3 hours on a Tuesday night, 5 hours on a Sunday.
Who is in charge?
A guy called Chris Curtis, and odd times Keith Myatt would come down and help out, because we're all Stoke guys, you know.
Yeah, and I know Keith, and I think I know Chris.
Maybe. From Stoke. He used to run a company called BWA.
I was good. Did he?
Yeah.
I wrestled him and his wife, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
so that place is the first place I basically wrestled.
Do you know what I know? That was the show. It was like I did that show before I did these 2 giant Ring of Honor shows in England.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh, this will be easy. And then they're like, there's a battle royal at the end. They're like, you want to be the battle royal? I was like, sure. And for some reason I got thrown over the battle royal and I didn't post on the apron. So I just took this crazy bump out in front of like 40 kids on a battle royal that I wasn't even asked to be in, and I was so fucked up.
Oh shit!
And so that's
always the way, though, isn't it? It's always the little things that you've done 1,000 times.
It is.
And you just hurt yourself.
Yeah.
So we wrestled there. They did like one show a month for the year and a half, and then obviously Dynamite was like, well, I haven't got a job. We need to do something. And Brian Dixon was huge at the time. It was like he had Yokozuna over at the time. He had Otani over. He had the Barbarian from WWF. And Dynamite was like, that's where we need to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no internet. Oh, there was internet then. Once there. Like, how do you find out about that?
It was really like I think it was like dial-up or something.
Yeah.
I certainly wasn't using the internet in like 99, 2000.
Right. Is that the year that you...
So we started training in 99, and I had my first match on January 22nd, 2000.
Nice. Yeah. So I think I did have a website in 2000.
Oh, did you really?
And angelfire.com /Illinois2/Colt Cabana. So my question would be like, how would you find out about these camps? But I would say probably everyone.
So our local venue was the Victoria Hall in Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent. And we used to just go along and watch the shows there.
But you don't know about the camps. You just know about this promotion.
And we'd obviously seen... I used to go on holiday with Dynamite and his family to a caravan as well in Wales. And there used to be a local wrestling show in Rhyl in the Coliseum there, ran by Orig Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to go along to that one too. So we knew that there was wrestling about. You know.
Why did you go? Was your family life all right back home?
Yeah, good. Yeah, like...
Or were you just sticking with him?
Obviously, growing up in Stoke-on-Trent, it's like the third poorest
it's a hard place, right?
Yeah, in the country. We didn't grow up with a lot of money and stuff. So Rob's family was just dead set on him becoming a wrestler. And whatever they could get together was into his wrestling career.
And they would take you along?
Yeah, I used to just jump in the van with him on holiday and... Yeah, they took me everywhere, to be honest. Fun. And when we started doing shows, like for Brian, it was his mum and dad that used to take us to the shows, like in the van. And at our wrestling school, we had me, Dynamite, a guy called Kid Cool. You remember Kid Cool?
Of course.
And Mikey Whiplash. And we all went to All Star together for the tryout matches. And basically, it was just a match before the show.
So he had tryouts. Huh?
Yeah, so we just got to Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent after Dynamite had gone up and pestered the life out of him. And he was like, let's see what have you got. And Kid Cool actually hurt his back doing like a rolling splash like in the beginning. So he was off, but we all got thrown into a battle royal that was on first for some reason on the show. And you had like Avalanche on there, which is like PN News. You had a guy called Brad Elliott who was like 400 pounds, Skull Murphy, all these guys, and I was like 16 years old, and they absolutely just wiped the floor with us.
But you ended up getting a gig.
Yeah,
all of you guys did.
So the way it was, there were shows every day, and we used to get thrown in the battle royals, beat up, and then obviously it was just to see if we'd come back. So every day we'd turn up, thrown in the battle royal, beat up. Next day we'd turn up.
Was there a button? And then like, so that's the four of you guys from Stoke-on-Trent.
Yes.
Was there like kind of quote unquote kids like from all over the country doing this also?
No, we were the only kids.
To be you guys?
We were the only people on the show that was under 18 stone. Everybody was like giant compared to us.
But were there people like trying to get in with Brian or?
Johnny Storm was about. He was like the youngest guy on the shows at the time. James Mason was actually quite young, but you know, James.
He's never,
he's been wrestling since.
He's actually 45. He was quite young at the
time. Yeah, so we just kept turning up, and then Mikey Whiplash decided to stay. Me and Mikey Whiplash stayed in the company that we were wrestling for Curtis, because his deal was like he didn't want anybody wrestling for anybody else in Stoke-on-Trent, and Dynamite was like, well, see you later then, because I'm doing these Victoria Hall shows. So him and Kid Cool went, we stayed, and then when I lost my job, I jumped on the camps.
And essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, like, so when you jumped on the camps, you essentially just moved up to where his base was.
So I jumped on the camps, and you're basically on the road. Like, the only day that you'd be home was like in the daytime on Monday and Friday, because you get picked up at night time to go onto the camps. So you're basically living on the road anyway. So I was still at my mum and dad's. And then after like a year and a half, 2 years of wrestling for Brian, I obviously started a relationship with Brian's daughter, Letitia, who lives on the Wirral. And that's the reason why I moved there.
Okay. That's wild. So like, When you start doing 5 days a week.
Yes.
At 18.
I was just turned 17.
17, 5 days a week. Now I want to know what's going in your head here. Are you like?
I'm just like, because the way it was, we literally, the only time we slept was on car journeys. Like if you were with Brian, he'd let you sleep, which is kind of a frowned upon thing, like with the older generation. But I think Brian knew, because the shows were daytime shows, like 12 o'clock. So that means 7 a.m. you're up for breakfast. 9 a.m. it's a ring. 12 is a show.
A ring means you have to put the ring up.
You have to put the ring up and take the ring down after the show. You jump in the car, and then it's like a 5-hour journey. So we used to go to sleep, go out at nighttime on the camp that we were at next, stay out all night, drink, spend all my wages basically, and then same again the next day.
Yeah, give me the loop. What would it be?
So,
give me an example.
Okay, so Monday night you get picked up, you go to Minehead, we go out all night. You get up, you get ready. 7 a.m. breakfast, 9 ring job.
Okay,
12 show.
How many people on the ring?
Because
I remember maybe
okay,
6.
so two singles matches. The ref, who was Frank Casey, who was like an old referee, like 50, but he had the ring in his van. And Brian would help out with the ring sometimes too.
Oh, he would?
Yeah,
Oh,
he'd help us do the ring. So it was just basically us.
So 6 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put the ring away, 5 hours sleep until the next camp, go out all night, and then, same again.
And then what was Tuesday?
So,
was Skegness? Was that a thing?
Tuesday was the show in Minehead. You drive to Bognor, and then you used to have to stay in the caravan park in Selsey, put the ring up, go back to Bognor, put the ring up there.
Because there was 2 shows.
Yes.
Okay.
Drive back to the caravan park, do the wrestle there, go back to Bognor, wrestle there, take the ring down to Bognor, drive back to Selsey and take the ring down. And then it was off to Skegness then.
Okay. And then Thursday, Skegness. Friday's a day off.
Friday, you do your washing and everything. You get picked up from Minehead Saturday night. And then Bognor was Sunday.
And then all over again.
Yeah.
You've done that for 15 years.
And that was like April till November, like 6 days a week when I first started.
Yeah. So at first it's like, this is the life. Is that what it is? I mean, when I went over there, that was the first time I was like, I think I'm a real wrestler now.
Yeah.
Like this is how they did it.
Do you remember the first match you had for All Star?
It was a 3-way. Was it you and Nathan?
Yes, me and Kid Colt at Butlin's.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just turned, I think you were doing another show somewhere else maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, and then Tish went to pick you up from the train station.
She was very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brought you back, and then we did a 3-way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was weird, no?
It was weird, because we were 3 baby faces.
Yes. And also, I mean, and we could talk about this as how, like, it's very, I came from a smart wrestling mark generation of, like, I was doing Ring of Honor, and not that I couldn't, I think I'm always, part of the fun of me is I was versatile. I could go with, But like this was like I don't think I've ever experienced anything like what I think the boss would want from me.
Okay.
So I'm trying to maybe do these comedy spots or something.
Yeah, we tried mixed comedy in there.
Yeah.
It was just, unless you've got cowboys and Indians on the camps, it's not going to work.
Booze and yays. Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So a 3-way comedy match isn't the greatest.
A great first impression. Essentially what I'm doing there is, not that I realized it because I think I was like, well, I know I'm stuck, but it's like I realized that like, I'm the only person I'm really trying to impress here is the boss. So he would want to continue using me. Yeah. And when I showed up, they had just booted a guy from Canada. They told him to fuck off, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if you remember that.
That happened so many times.
Probably
did. Yeah. Because if you think about it, like the guys wrestling every day so much, they're at like a certain level, they can all work. If somebody comes on the team and they're not so good, especially like a foreigner, they just don't last very long. Brian will be like, well, we could be using another British guy who's really good.
Right.
And this Canadian guy isn't very good.
And even though they'd bought a ticket or whatever, it's just, you got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you could stay in the country if you want.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Stay at the Digs.
Yeah. So the Digs is, he had a house.
He still has a house where all the wrestlers
12 wrestlers stay.
Yeah. And
I was the first person in that Digs?
Go on.
Because originally all the wrestlers were staying at this American Gladiators house.
Yes.
Micah Hearn,
yes.
And then something happened where they were like, they weren't allowed to stay there anymore. And then they were like, okay, Brian's now going to let everyone stay at his house. And I just happened to be the first person there.
Oh, okay.
And I was like the first one ever. And it was just me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was 24 and I felt like I got this house to myself,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
and then later to learn that there's 25 wrestlers.
Everybody piles in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually lived in that. That was the house that I moved into when I first moved to the Wirral.
Yeah.
Because Tish was living there at the time. And then obviously we bought a house. Brian's office is still there. And he just thought, let the guys stay here.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
might as well.
Okay, so you're doing the 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Does it get to a point where you're like, I always thought like, are you ever like, well, where does it go from here, or do I see myself doing this the whole time?
Well, so when we first started on the camps, it was just us guys, like young guys, and sometimes there'd be like older guys join the team.
And I want to hear the list of guys that you've just randomly done the road with too. It's got to be
like obviously James Mason, Robbie Brookside, Drew McDonald.
Yeah. But guys like you said, like Yoko and Jake the Snake and Gangrel and
Tatanka.
American Drag.
Dragon was over for such a long time.
Yeah.
He basically lived here. Just trying to think off the top of my head. It's just endless.
Joe
you know what I mean?
Legend.
Joe Legend. They just all come and go.
Yeah.
just weird.
And you've watched them. Because I use Brian as an example. You've watched him start like not at the beginning because he was obviously a star, but like to what he became.
Yeah.
But you watch these guys come in, and then all of a sudden they go get jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like a Wade Barrett or a Sheamus.
Sheamus, yeah.
Right? Like they're just these dudes doing the job, and then next thing you know, they're all on television.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious how that weighed on some of your guys' head too.
I can only speak for me personally, but it was never a goal for me to go there. I don't think I'm what they're looking for, and I don't think it was what I was. Because obviously, so a little bit of a backstory here, but my mum and dad were like 16 and 17 when they had me as a kid. And growing up, my dad was more like a brother figure. So I always had it in my head growing up that I need kids young. And then especially when I started wrestling, I was like, oh, I don't want to be like super old like when I have my first kid. You know what I mean? I want to be young enough to like play football with them and stuff like that. So,
which is crazy, by the way. And I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation 15 years ago.
Yes.
And I remember you saying this exactly, and that's stuck in my head for so long.
Yeah.
That you're like, I want to be able to play ball with my kid.
Yeah.
And you were just having your child.
Yes.
Yeah, you were 20.
Yeah.
What are you, 21 or something?
21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how old is your kid now?
So I've got a 6-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 years? Was it only 12? Okay, maybe it was only 12. Yeah, 2004 then maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 2005 the next summer.
Yeah,
maybe. It was the next summer you had. Yeah. Okay, so
so I was basically just doing the loop and everything. And then
but you were saying why you didn't think you were going to go there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just one place because when I was growing up, especially like when I started training to wrestle, like obviously WWF was the thing that got me into wrestling. But then as I got older and started studying tapes, me and Dynamite used to catch the train like when we were 15 to Manchester. And there was a shop in Manchester that used to trade tapes. So it used to have a big catalogue with all these matches. And we used to just buy a tape. We used to spend like £100 each, a tape from everywhere that we could find. And instantly, like Michinoku Pro was like one of my favorites. Like Japanese wrestling became New Japan, obviously with all the juniors, was my favorite. The British stuff, the World of Sport stuff, I went and I was like, oh my God, this is what I love. And then the more I watched that, the more I went off like the American stuff, you know? And then from there, I was just like, oh, Japan is like a goal. That's something I'd like to do one day. And obviously I'm wrestling in the UK so much. Why do I need to go anywhere else? I've got a kid on the way. Obviously, I went and wrestled for TNA in 2004. Yeah, which was just like a random thing. I was doing a show. I'd just been off for like 6 weeks with an ankle injury. It's my first show back. And Robbie Brookside come up to me and was like, they need 4 guys for TNA to wrestle some Mexicans.
Team
like,
UK, right?
Yeah, Team UK. Do you want to go? And I was like, you sure? When is it? And he was like, you have to be there for tomorrow. And I was like, oh, shit.
Do you have a passport?
I had a passport, lucky enough, yeah.
Wow.
So
why?
For holidays and stuff.
Just to
Yeah, just to travel. But it's good to be prepared, you know, just in case anything comes up.
I remember I had a fake tour of China, and I was like, I gotta get a passport.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those tours that that they're like, hey, we're having a tour, and then it never happens.
Oh, right, okay.
But luckily enough, I had it because same way, I got offered a tour of Europe. Like, it was like, it's in 2 weeks. And like, luckily enough, I had my passport.
Yeah.
It's a lesson to all the wrestlers out there.
Oh, yeah.
Get a passport.
Yeah. And I think Mikey Whiplash at the time, he was one that was asked, and he didn't have a passport, so he didn't go. So it was me, Frankie Sloan, James Mason, and Dynamite.
Yeah.
Just
captained by Dave Taylor, was that
yes,
right?
and he was already there.
Yeah.
And the first match I had was the worst match of my entire career on pay-per-view. So in front of Dave Taylor.
Still to this day?
Yeah, still to this day. It was just... Got there, they wanted me as like a villain. I'd never been a villain before. I'd only been wrestling 4 years. And it was just bad timing for me, I think.
So do you think that taste in your mouth was just like, maybe America's not for me?
Well, actually, like we did a tag match in an 8-man as well, like a couple of weeks later. And they weren't too bad, but I was just like, oh, this probably isn't. Like, as soon as I had that match, I was just like, I'm going to get really good now, and I'm never going to feel like that ever again.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but like, as soon as the match was done, I went outside and like cried for like 20 minutes. And I don't really cry, you know what I mean? I'm quite tough, and I just went outside and cried for like 20 minutes. Just, I was really embarrassed, you know.
It's only happened to me once. I didn't cry.
Okay.
Me and Nigel had this European. I came back from England.
Yeah.
Me and Nigel had this weird European rules match.
Okay.
For Ring of Honor in like New York. And it was just a stinker. And I remember just sitting back with my hands in my like, and I don't show emotions. And even like, did you like, when you did it, did you like go away from all the boys? And stuff?
Yeah. Because it was like Sabu was there, Raven was there, and they have a big screen, obviously, as you know.
Yeah.
And everybody's getting changed in the same place, and they're obviously all watching it,
right?
Watching me die on my arse, and went outside and cried, you know.
Oh man.
Yeah. And obviously, like, doing all like paying your dues, and that makes you strong. Like working in that factory made me strong, and then getting on the road and like for the first year having to do all the stuff that you have to do makes you into a tough person, you know. So I thought I could handle anything. It was just like totally knocked the wind out of me.
Right. And you look back on that now. And I bet in 10 years, if there's something happens now, you'll look back and be like, "Ooh, I wasn't ready for that."
Yeah,
even
maybe.
Now, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. But then, like 2010, I started working for. I got asked to do the Dragon Gate UK shows when they came over here, which was like out of nowhere. I think I had a match with Doug Williams on an All-Star show that was seen by Mark Sloan, and he was like, "You want to do this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah."
And do you attribute that to the idea of? I mean, it's got to be the idea of, you know, I when I do training seminars, I say reps. I don't know if that translates to a UK thing, but in baseball, it's like, you know, swing, you know, keep on swinging the bat, and it's just like matches.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine it's just like, well, and I always say, like, if you have 1,000 matches or 2,000 matches, like, you're gonna be good.
Yeah,
right. Like,
you've got to be.
You've got to be,
especially wrestling like people like James Mason and that. And obviously, when I met James, I was 17. He kind of took a shine to me and became my mentor, and he showed me so much.
But I'd imagine it's a thing where like Mark Sloan watches your match in 2010.
Yeah.
At that point, like, you've been doing the camp since 2000. That's 10 years of every single day for whatever.
Yeah.
You probably don't. I don't. Maybe you do, but I know you don't have an ego like this where you're like, you don't even realize that you're good. Like,
yeah, just
you're just you.
I just turn up and just do it because it's another show, you know.
But if someone hasn't, and you have the experience of someone who's been doing it 40, you know, someone who's doing only weekends, you've now have the experience of if that person, you know, is doing it whatever, like 40 years or whatever, because the number of matches,
the amount of matches, it's crazy.
So the Dragon Gate was good.
The Dragon Gate went good, which opened up a lot of doors, like wrestling companies here. And obviously, I started wrestling for where we are now, PCW, and they put me in a match in 2013 against Liger. So it was like one of Liger's it might have been his first appearance here in the UK. So I was just like, oh my God, like this is I thought Dragon Gate was like the closest I was ever going to get to Japan. I was like, okay, they're a Japanese company. And then I wrestled Liger. I was like, that's the closest I'm ever going to get to Japan. And then Liger was really happy with the match. And then in 2014, a Japanese agent turned up at Butlins just randomly, and
for what reason? To watch wrestling or just vacation?
A new company called Wrestle One was starting up, so they sent an agent out. It was Jimmy Suzuki. I don't know if you know him. And they sent him out on the scout of like Europe and stuff, and he just so happened to turn up at a Butlins show, and then he liked what I did, and then when I added him on Facebook, he saw that my profile picture was like me and Liger. And he spoke to Liger. I think he bumped into him or contacted him, and Liger said, "Oh yeah, he's like really good." So Jimmy booked me for the show, and then I was off to Japan. I was like, "Oh my God, like my dreams come true."
And then what? Also, Liger was doing the same thing you were doing 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, there was
Right?
that story in there too. So when I wrestled him here, I brought Brian along, and as soon as Liger saw him, he just went up to him, picked him up, and spun him round. He just couldn't believe that.
How long was he here for?
He was here for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
And doing the camps or just doing the Brian's Loops?
I think he might have been just doing because it was TV then. I think he was just doing TV.
Right.
But he might have been doing the camps too.
But he was touring the same way you were touring.
Yeah.
And that's something too that I realized is like, hey, we all just do this. Whether someone's gone on to make $1 million or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's it.
It's the same life. You're in the car, you're going to Selzy, you're going to Minehead, we're all the same person.
It's crazy.
There can't be egos in those trips, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's like, and the journeys, like, probably, a lot of people complain about the traveling, but the journeys are probably my favorite part of wrestling.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm around guys that I've known for like over 10 years, like really close friends, and them journeys make it for me, you know.
When I was doing it, like one thing I did notice was, and Brian and I talked about this too, is that there were no egos. We were all the same. We're just traveling around. But I guess, I was only there for a fraction of what you've been there for, obviously. So has there been people that came in with egos that quickly got shoved? And obviously I'm not looking for names, but just the idea of like...
they kind of... Yeah, they don't last very long.
You don't...
to be honest. Because they come in and it's already like entering a family, you know what I mean? And we're all like a pack, you know what I mean? So if there's any trouble, we've all got each other's backs and we all stick together.
And I feel that when fans hear about like maybe a WWE locker room and the same thing happening, and even like an example of a guy who's been, now they're collecting all these independent guys who've been wrestling for 15 years, and it's not the idea of like, hey, I don't care if you're... and they come in like, I'm a veteran, so I'm allowed to just come in and... But no, you're right. That locker room is a family, the same way that this locker room is a family. No matter if you've been wrestling 20 years or whatever.
That's it.
You got to be...
Yeah.
You got to know how to nurture your way in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Form relationships.
And we're so lucky with the guys that we've had, like yourself and Dragon, and they just become part of the family, and we have such a good time together. And it's always good for me to see... Like, because my kids watch WWE now, so I'll sit there and watch it with them. And guys that I've been on the road with, guys that I've like joked around with, guys that have wrestled. I used to wrestle Dragon every day, like back in them old camp days. To see somebody like that doing so well is awesome.
Yeah,
there's nothing but good. You know what I mean?
Of course.
There's no hint of like jealousy or anything like that. It's just like when somebody does good, you just congratulate them and you just carry on. I love what I do. I still love it to this day, and I wrestle as much as possible.
Yeah, I do want to talk about one thing is that we didn't hit on it, is that you married the boss's daughter. Do you get called like the Triple H of England?
Yeah, but it's just like because that we married in 2004, 2003, sorry. And we had
Don't be sorry to me, be sorry to her.
2003, we had Joseph in 2004, and it's just like I've heard it so many times since then. It's just like wash off a duck's back.
But I'm curious about is the idea of going into a relationship with the boss's daughter. I don't know. I'm Jewish and neurotic, so I know what would go through my head. Yeah. I don't know if you were just like, hey, this girl's cool, like, or do you think about the idea of like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm kind of fucked.
I was kind of just like, I just kind of fell in love, you know what I mean? It was just like, okay, I love wrestling. I don't think anything's going to happen. Like, we hid it for a little while. But I thought I had a feeling everything was going to be okay. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, there's a lot of other promoters that I wrestle for, so I can still wrestle if this goes south, you know?
So you had like an exit plan.
Yeah. Plan B.
Yeah. Okay. And so you just saw it out.
Yeah.
That's
just
wild.
went for it.
And you guys are you like a little wrestling family?
Yeah.
Because she was ring announcing.
Yeah, she ring announces. Obviously, her dad has been promoting for 50 years. Her mum wrestled for like 35 years over here. Her granddad was a wrestler. So it's just like a wrestler.
I know that.
Yeah.
So Mitzi's
dad was a wrestler too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, her dad, Mitzi Mueller,
who
was a famous women's wrestler over here.
Yes. She basically started women's wrestling over here.
Yeah, is that true?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
Because it was like a lot of people, when women's wrestling came along, they petitioned against it. Like, we don't want women's wrestling. And then they did this whole thing, like, bring women's wrestling to wrestling shows. Excuse me. And then they ended up becoming main event because they put so much into it. And so they went on all these TV shows, like chat shows.
to say that, hey, stop telling us to
stop.
Get rid of
and then they
wrestling.
became famous because of that, and they were main event.
Who was Mitzi? Who was she wrestling with?
Oh, she wrestled so many. Nikki South, who I'm like really good friends with now. Busty Keegan, just the who's who of women's wrestlers that have come through.
That's amazing.
She's
women we maybe don't know enough about.
Yeah,
that helped revolutionize women's wrestling.
Of course.
England.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
and then you have a school too.
I do.
Yeah,
we opened a wrestling school in 2006, so that's been going for like 11 years now.
And you put them? Was the goal to like have them and then have guys then to do the camps and stuff?
I think in Brian's mind it was. For me, I was just like, oh, I enjoy teaching this wrestling.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that a lot of the guys have come out of that school and gone on to not only wrestle on the camps, but like gone on to do like good things. You know?
Yeah. You got a star of the school? Or do you not want to?
Yeah, no favorites for now.
Right.
My boy Terrence, who's like my best friend, he listens to your podcast and he's like, "Give me a shout out." So
there you go.
You're welcome.
I gave you the perfect opportunity for it. Did you? Well, Robbie Brookside was training there, no, or was it always just been you training?
And he wasn't. He had his own school.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. He had his own school that he opened up like later on, like towards the end of his career, because. Obviously, I was on the road with Robbie for like a good 10 years. And towards the end, he was like, I don't know how many matches I've got left in me. You know, I'm going to have to do something. So I think he had it in his mind about opening the school. But then obviously he got the job in the developmental. So that
how happy were you for him for that?
So happy. Because he's done so much, not only for me, but for everybody else in British wrestling. Obviously, the video Diaries is legendary stuff.
Legendary.
Yeah.
I don't know enough people. I mean, very influential on the Wrestling Road Diaries that I do. And I always say, if you don't, like, it's on YouTube, go look at the Brookside Diaries.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And obviously, I was on the road for Brian a couple of years before Brookside came along, because he was doing the Japan thing. He was out in Japan quite a lot, and then he was wrestling for another promoter in this country. And then I think he had a falling out with Brian before I got onto the team. And then, as always, Brian got back in touch with him and said, come back on the team. And then just having there, because obviously that James was the leader, and then Brookside came on the team and he was like the instant leader above James, you know.
And there's that dichotomy of that on a team, huh?
Yeah, because like obviously it's in rank.
Yeah.
So like obviously James knows that Brookside ranks above him. So
it's like a weird army that's so funny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How it works. And that's been your life for 15 years now.
Yeah, 17 years.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. And you're still a kid. How old are you?
33.
It's unreal. Yeah, it's unreal. And like, do you picture, I mean, what do you see? Like, can you do this? Do you do this another 15 years?
I always had it in my mind, 40.
Yeah.
I'd say how I feel at 40. But it's just like, I love it so much. I could never think about not doing it.
That's unreal.
Because if I go like a month without wrestling, it's like, oh my God, this is driving me crazy. I need to wrestle. So... yeah, I just need to be out on the road.
I mean, so you've done 4,000, 5,000 matches, whatever it is, but that also means you've put up 5,000 wrestling rings.
Just because in the summertime, the run that I do now is me and James like do the run. Yeah. We're like the leaders of our run, and then when we do them shows on a Sunday, it's like 3 ring jobs. You're putting the ring up 3 times, taking it down 3 times.
Is it one of those things where you're just like, you're going crazy, but like you just like know like that's part of the fun of being a wrestler?
It's just, I enjoy it so much. Like even putting the ring up.
So you're not even like, I hate this while you're doing it.
No, not in the least. I'm just like, this is the summer, this is the camps, this is my favorite time of the year.
Amazing.
I absolutely love it.
That's great. That's amazing. You're a good hidden gem, a good great story.
Oh, thank you.
I think the goal is, I don't know, that you know, I want higher profile things for you. I think you do also. I think you're getting there, right?
Yeah. I think so. Obviously,
maybe you don't even care. I don't know.
I'm just as long as I'm wrestling, I'm happy. You know. Obviously, I went back to Japan last year, which was like out the blue again, because Jimmy Suzuki stopped being the agent for Wrestle One, and a new company over there called Diamond Stars Wrestling started up, and he wanted me for that first show. So I went over there and wrestled Minoru Tanaka, and that was so much fun.
Nice.
He's really good. He's so good.
Who are and there's been the Japanese guys that have come in with you. I mean, those Noah guys did the camps for a couple of years.
They come, and it was like a different 2 every week.
Yeah.
Doug was, he had some agreement with Noah, and he was sending them over 2 at a time. Obviously, the guy that I wrestled in Wrestle 1, who was like a young boy, Seiki Yoshioka, he came over and did the camps. But he blew his knee out pretty bad in our match in Japan. Ooh. And then he had to do like the camp run, which like was really tough. He came limping through the airport. I was like, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's in for.
Who's the one that spoke the least English that like got... So you said Cowboys and Indians, which is like goodies versus baddies, real elementary.
Yeah.
Who's the one that's come over and has just like gotten it, like got it, you know?
From Japan?
I would say, yeah.
Okay. Seiki was pretty good, actually. He picked it up really fast.
Yeah.
There was a guy came over called Shadow Phoenix from Japan. He was really good, but he wore a mask, so it wasn't a lot of showing out, but his style was perfect for the camp shows, and Brian really liked him.
That's what Brian liked.
Yeah.
Brian, like, he's notorious for what? For action, right?
Action, and it's like colour. He wants you colourful as possible. If anybody's wearing like black ring gear, he hates it.
Yeah.
He'll say like, get some colour.
Not to be mistaken with blood all over yourself.
Definitely not Butlin's camps.
Yes. All right. What are your plugs?
My plugs?
Where are you at on the internet?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Dean Allmark, all of them.
It's all Dean Allmark?
Yeah.
And what's the school?
Is the All-Star Wrestling School UK.
Jesus.
Don't know what that was.
I don't either. Okay. The Wrestling All-Star...
All-Star Wrestling School UK is where I teach.
In Liverpool?
On the Wirral.
On the Wirral side.
Yeah.
So no excuse if you want to be a wrestler and that's what you want to be a wrestler.
I just find it crazy that a lot of guys don't see the camps and all that work and think, oh, they've got a wrestling school and we could end up doing them camps.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't realize this, you know. Yeah. So hopefully this will help them.
Wonderful. Thanks, man.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for
being here. It was a pleasure.
All right, there is a wrestler that you should know, Dean Allmark. Dean to Extreme, by the way, was his wrestling name that I knew him as. And if anything screams, hey, I was a wrestling fan when the Hardy Boys were a thing, it's naming yourself Dean to Extreme. I love that. I loved Dean to Extreme for years. He was Dean to Extreme for years. Dean, thanks for being on the show, sharing your story. Can't wait to head out to England and do some more shows with you. All right, before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way you can support ColtMerch.com, digitalcolt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW podcast, also /Colt Cabana, my storytelling podcast, Pro Wrestling Fringe, plus past archives of this show are ad-free, and they're at howl.fm/Colt. Use the code COLT, get a free month. ColtWrestling@gmail.com is my very public email. Maybe a promoter want to put me on your upcoming show or convention. I got a YouTube channel. I put videos up on there. ColtCabana.com is my website. I got a P.O. box. Send me some snail mail. Upcoming this Friday, March 17th, Austin, Texas, 3:30, live podcast at southbysouthwest.com. You need a badge, but I encourage you to sneak in. I'll probably help you sneak in if you want to come. That night, WrestleCircus.com is doing a show. They're also doing an iPay-per-view. I'm wrestling Matt Hardy. You should watch it. Sunday, March 19th, Worcester, Massachusetts. Facebook /Beyond Wrestling. Friday, March 24th, Cleveland, Ohio, AIWrestling.com. Saturday, March 25th, Windsor, Canada, BorderCityWrestling.com. Sunday, March 26th, London, Ontario, Canada, Smash-Wrestling.com. And Mania Weekend, Orlando, Florida, all week. Wednesday, March 29th, AtomicWrestlingFL.com. Thursday at 4 p.m., I'm doing a live podcast with Larry Zbyszko, tinyurl.com/Colt and Larry. 8:30 p.m., WrestleProOnline.com. Friday and Saturday is WrestleCon, 10 to 5 and 10 to 4, respectively. Live podcasts at 4 and 3, respectively. Friday night, the WrestleCon show. Saturday night, ROHWrestling.com show. And Sunday, I'm having breakfast with a couple of you guys. Come to WrestleCon. They got hotels available. Stay at WrestleCon. Hang out with me in the foyer. I know I said that wrong, but I don't care. All right, that is the show. Thank you to you guys at home for listening and spreading the word and telling your friends. Thank you to Dean, to Extreme, Allmark. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Kid Russell and Matt Jenkins on the music, Dane Miller with some tech. Declan Quinn also helped me with tech with this very episode. If you need any audio repair or mastering of any kind of audio, hit up Declan. He's a master. CreakyStudios.com or on Twitter at DEQuinn. We do have sponsors, HighSpots.com, a VOD service that's amazing. Hundreds of full-length titles available to download. $5 wrestling, AMA knee pads, gear, mask, a wrestling ring. OneHourTees.com. They help run ProWrestlingCrate.com. They help run ProWrestlingTees.com. That's the place where you can support your favorite independent wrestlers directly by buying a t-shirt. tweakedaudio.com/Colt, earbuds that I use. Get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. We are done. We are done. I'm going to be heading to South by Southwest. I'm very excited about that. Trying to take in a couple shows. I'm doing a couple of shows, some secret shows while I'm down there. If you understand that hint, maybe you'll make a name tag that says Colt Cabana. Come say hi to me. If I'm roaming around, come say hi. Otherwise, I'm saying bye right about now. This has been The Art of Wrestling for Colt Cabana. I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.